In a somber church filled with mourning faces, the funeral service for 28-year-old Mark Wilson proceeds quietly. The priest's eulogy echoes through the sacred walls until a strange vibration breaks the silence. As whispers spread through the congregation, the coffin's mysterious trembling grows stronger. The priest approaches with trembling hands and slowly lifts the lid. What he discovers next will make your blood run cold. Thunder rumbled in the distance as mourners filed into St. Michael's Church for Mark Wilson's funeral. Dark clouds had gathered overhead, casting an unnatural gloom over the proceedings. The loss of someone so young, just 28 years old, had sent shockwaves through the community. A heart attack, they said. So sudden, so unexpected. The ancient church pews groaned in the heavy silence as friends and colleagues made their way inside, their faces pale with shock and grief. Shadows danced across the walls as candles flickered in the draft. In the front row, Sarah Chen dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. As Mark's closest friend from work, she had taken his death particularly hard. Over the past 2 days, she had been instrumental in organizing the funeral, ensuring everything would be perfect for her dear friend's final goodbye. The weak light filtering through the stained glass windows cast an eerie glow across the coffin, the colors seeming more like dried blood than the usual warm hues. A cold draft whispered through the church, causing the candle flames to dance and the shadows to twist along the walls. The priest's words floated through the air, speaking of Mark's kindness, his generosity, his bright future cut tragically short. But fate had other plans for this funeral service. It started as a subtle vibration, barely noticeable among the quiet sobs of the mourners, a low hum that seemed to emanate from the polished wooden coffin. At first people shifted in their seats, unsure if they were imagining things, but the vibration grew stronger, more insistent. The priest's voice faltered as the strange sound became impossible to ignore. Confused whispers rippled through the congregation. Some leaned forward in their seats, others drew back. The vibration had become a distinct buzzing noise that echoed through the church's vaulted ceiling. Sarah Chen suddenly stood up, her face pale. "Please!" she called out, her voice trembling. "We should continue with the service. This is disrespectful." But her plea was drowned out by the growing murmurs of the congregation. Something wasn't right. The priest approached the coffin with hesitant steps. His hands shook as he reached for the lid. Behind him, several mourners had risen to their feet, torn between curiosity and horror. Sarah made another attempt to stop him, insisting that Mark deserved dignity in death. But the mysterious vibration demanded investigation. With a creak that seemed to echo through the stunned silence, the priest lifted the coffin lid. His eyes widened as he stared at what lay inside. There, placed carefully on the chest of the deceased, was a phone. Its screen was illuminated, vibrating with an incoming video call. The congregation held its breath as the priest's trembling hands picked up the device. The caller ID displayed a name that sent gasps rippling through the church. Mark Wilson. Time seemed to stand still as the priest's finger hovered over the answer button. How could the dead be calling their own funeral? The question hung heavy in the air as he finally accepted the call. What happened next would haunt everyone present for years to come. Mark Wilson's face appeared on the screen, very much alive. His image was crystal clear, his eyes alert, his expression grave. The body in the coffin, as everyone could now see, was an expertly crafted dummy. The truth began to unravel like a thread pulled from a carefully woven tapestry. Mark's voice filled the sacred space through the phone's speaker, each word landing like a hammer blow in the stunned silence. He wasn't dead. He had never been dead. This elaborate scene was a trap, and it had just sprung shut. Mark revealed a chilling pattern that had gone unnoticed for months. It centered around Sarah Chen, the grieving friend in the front row, the same Sarah who had been bringing him home-cooked meals at work, the same Sarah who owed him $50,000. 2 months earlier, Mark's world had started to crumble when he learned of Tom Parker's death. A heart attack, they said. Tom had been Mark's mentor when he first joined the company 3 years ago. They had lunch together every Wednesday until Tom suddenly stopped showing up. Sarah had been the one to break the news, mentioning casually how she'd been bringing Tom home-cooked meals in his final weeks. Just a month before Tom's death, their colleague David Chen had died the same way, another heart attack. David, who ran marathons and led the office fitness challenge every year. David, who had just celebrated his 35th birthday. Mark remembered Sarah organizing a collection for David's widow, speaking at his funeral about what a generous friend he'd been. Something clicked in Mark's mind when Sarah mentioned these deaths over lunch one day. Tom and David had both confided in Mark about lending Sarah money, substantial amounts for a can't-miss investment opportunity. As the realization hit him, Mark's blood ran cold. Each victim had a connection to Sarah through various networking events or professional conferences. Each had provided her with significant loans, and each had died unexpectedly, their deaths attributed to natural causes. The pattern was as simple as it was deadly. Sarah would borrow money claiming she had found a promising investment opportunity. Then came the friendship, the caring gestures, the home-cooked meals. Finally, a sudden death, always ruled as natural causes. And there was Sarah, the devoted friend, organizing the funeral, grieving appropriately, moving on to her next target. When Sarah started bringing Mark lunch, he recognized the warning signs, the same routine she had followed with her other victims. He began documenting everything. Each meal she brought, every conversation they had. He saved text messages where she discussed her investment opportunity and kept records of the money he had lent her. Instead of eating the food, he had it tested at a private laboratory. The results confirmed his suspicions. Traces of cyanide carefully measured, administered slowly over time. The poison was being mixed into the home-cooked meals Sarah brought him 3 times a week, building up in what would have appeared to be a natural progression toward heart failure. Mark took his evidence to the police. Detective James Morrison, who had investigated one of the previous deaths but found nothing conclusive at the time, saw the pieces falling into place. Together, they formulated a plan to catch Sarah in the act. The operation required perfect timing and absolute secrecy. They needed Sarah to believe she had succeeded. A team of medical professionals helped create detailed documentation of Mark's supposed death. The dummy in the coffin was crafted by forensic experts to withstand casual inspection. Every detail had to be perfect to maintain the illusion. The priest staggered backward, his face ashen as he realized what this meant. The words escaped his lips in a horrified whisper, "Dear God, no!" He was standing next to a serial killer, someone who had turned friendship into a weapon, kindness into a tool for murder. Sarah's composed facade cracked. She bolted for the door, but her escape was cut short. Several mourners stood up, revealing themselves as plainclothes police officers. They had been waiting for this moment, positioned strategically throughout the congregation. The church doors opened, and Mark Wilson walked in, flanked by more officers. His presence, alive, breathing, walking, was the final piece of evidence. Sarah's carefully constructed world of deception crumbled as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Detective Morrison stepped forward from among the mourners, reading Sarah her rights. The woman who had played the role of grieving friend so many times now stood exposed before her intended victims' families. Some of these family members had been invited to the funeral specifically for this moment, finally learning the truth about their loved ones' deaths. The truth emerged in waves of horror. This wasn't just about one attempted murder. This was about a series of calculated killings, disguised as tragic accidents, hidden behind a mask of friendship and care. Sarah Chen had perfected her technique. The concerned friend, the grieving survivor, the helpful colleague who organized funerals for her own victims. Investigators would later discover that Sarah's debt problems stretched back years. She had developed a gambling addiction that spiraled out of control, leading her to borrow increasingly large sums of money. When she couldn't repay her debts, she chose murder over bankruptcy, believing she had found the perfect method to eliminate both her debts and any evidence of her crimes. As Sarah was led away, the stunned congregation struggled to process what they had witnessed. The church, meant to host a funeral, had become the stage for exposing a killer. Mark's elaborate plan had worked perfectly, using Sarah's own pattern against her. She had attended this funeral just as she had attended all the others, to maintain her innocent appearance, to complete her performance of grief. The events of that day brought unexpected healing to the community. Mark's courage in exposing Sarah's crimes gave closure to families who had lost loved ones, finally understanding the truth behind their tragic deaths. The case made national headlines, leading to the reopening and solving of similar cases across the country. Thanks to Mark's careful documentation and creative thinking, countless lives were potentially saved. The story served as a reminder that while evil can hide behind a friendly face, there are also heroes among us. People like Mark who are willing to risk everything to protect others. And you, what would you do if you noticed something suspicious about someone close to you? Would you have the courage to take action like Mark did?